And at last, our dream home is complete, and we'll be moving in a week. In the midst of it all, my husband dropped a bombshell. Seems like Mom and the others have started packing up too. What? Is your mom moving too? Huh? What are you talking about? Of course they are moving to the new house. Wait, by new house, do you mean your mom bought a house too? Are you out of it? The new house is the one we bought. Wait, what do you mean? My name is Maria, a 34-year-old corporate employee. I've always been dedicated to my work, prioritizing it over romance. This focus allowed me to be promoted at an early age, be entrusted with various tasks, and often land in positions with responsibility. I work for a pharmaceutical company, where my role is to visit healthcare professionals, such as doctors, to provide, collect, and convey information about the quality, effectiveness, and safety of our products. I am busy traveling to various hospitals daily and preparing presentations on new drugs for doctors, even when I return to the office. My workaholic tendencies are such that my parents have often suggested, if you can't find a good man, why not go on blind dates? To which I always retort, I don't have time for that. Going on blind dates willy-nilly? I don't want to be so indiscriminate. However, I've started to wonder if I should continue my life as a single woman. My friends are getting married one by one, and my close friend who used to say, let's enjoy our single life and travel a lot, is now a mother of 2. Although I still believe that marriage isn't everything in life, I'm starting to feel a sense of urgency about whether I should end my life without experiencing marriage. That's when I met Robert, who later became my husband. A friend, hearing about my concern, introduced me to him at a party she hosted. Robert, 5 years younger than me, was 29, apparently works as a web designer. Like me, he had prioritized his work and often ended up being dumped because he wasn't good at balancing work and love. I thought, he's just like me, and felt a strange kinship with him. We hit it off right away and began dating. He understood our work commitments, so we only met when our schedules allowed, which made the relationship very comfortable. He seemed very dedicated to his work and gave me a very serious impression, which made me think that I could marry him. His parents had also suggested to him that it's about time you should think about marriage, and had even brought up the subject of arranged marriages. This similarity in our circumstances made me feel that he was indeed the right person to marry. After about a year of dating, we got married. My parents were thrilled that I was getting married, and my mom even burst into tears. I believe she was genuinely happy because she cried so much, not just when we announced our marriage, but also during our wedding ceremony. This is how the married life of my husband and I started, but we immediately hit a wall. That was the presence of my in-laws. Since our house was about a 10-minute walk from my in-laws, we often got called over. It was always my mother-in-law who would call us, seemingly with the intention of badgering the daughter-in-law while meeting her son. My mother-in-law frequently made snide remarks toward me to the extent that my husband and father-in-law wouldn't notice, and she would often make me do household chores for no good reason. Maria, I have a backache. Could you do the cleaning for me? Okay. Great. Could you clean all the rooms and corridors on the first and second floor? Another person who troubled me was my sister-in-law. She had a sharp tongue to begin with and would openly insult me, regardless of whether my husband or father-in-law were around. Maria, you seem like such a plain and boring woman. My husband and father-in-law would scold her, but she just ignored them and did whatever she wanted. I want to eat something sweet, Maria. Go and buy it. Oh, perfect timing. Please also buy some ingredients for dinner while you're out. Though I wondered why I had to do these things, I initially thought it was better not to rebel against my in-laws, so I complied quietly. However, this only served to encourage my mother-in-law and sister-in-law. They started to harass me every chance they got. After that, I grew weary of visiting my in-laws and started telling my husband, I don't want to go. My husband said, well, I won't force you to come, but also expressed his dissatisfaction, saying, They're my family, so please try to get along with them. I could have gotten along with them if my mother-in-law and sister-in-law had been kind. Since my husband didn't forcibly take me, I was able to avoid going to my in-laws for a while, but I had to go during Christmas and Thanksgiving because it was hard to decline those invitations after usually refusing them. However, when I showed up at my in-laws, my mother-in-law and sister-in-law treated me as if they'd gotten a new toy to play with. I only have to see them once or twice a year, so I just have to endure this, I would tell myself, to get through these visits. If it weren't for the situation with my in-laws, my married life with my husband would have been close to ideal. He knew I loved my job, so he let me do overtime whenever I wanted, and we shared household chores. I was truly grateful that he was understanding about my work. My husband also supported my dream, that is, to build my own home. This has been a dream of mine since I was a child. Well, even though my husband is supportive, I decided to build the house using only money I saved by myself, so there's no financial help from him. So rather than support, it's more like he's understanding of the situation. The funds for my dream house have been mostly saved from part-time jobs since my student days. It's not something to openly brag about, but I have a pretty good salary at my company, so I was able to save a decent amount each month. This is one of the reasons why I was able to prepare enough funds at this age, I think. Finally, the funds for my dream house reached the necessary amount, so I promptly requested a construction company. Floor plan and design and such, I had researched variously since long ago, so I was able to smoothly convey my wishes. So I was thinking of making this your workspace, Robert. Since your web design job is often working from home, I thought you'd find it relaxing if it's a place with good sunlight and a nice outside view. That sounds great. I'm really happy. Thank you. The dream house is quite far from my in-laws, so my mother-in-law and sister-in-law probably won't be able to visit often. Excitedly, I waited for the house to be completed. And finally, our dream house was completed, and we decided to move in a week later. In the midst of all this, my husband made a surprising remark. My parents have been packing up quite a bit, too. What? Are your parents moving? What? Of course, they're moving to the new house. Wait, the new house? Did your parents buy a house, too? Are you spacing out? The new house is our house. What? What do you mean? Why are your parents moving into my house? Why? Well, when I talked about the new house, they said they wanted to live there too. What? Why did you decide something like that on your own? I can't believe this. What's the matter? Is that bad? Of course it is. My dream was to build and live in my ideal home. Why do I have to be interrupted by your parents? Interrupted? They're my family. You may not have noticed, but I've been bullied by your mother and sister. I can't live with them. Even after I said this much, my husband did not understand and said something unbelievable. Enough. Stop being so selfish. What? My mom and sis were saying this. They said they were troubled by your bad attitude. They said they just wanted you to be a good wife. You took their side? You believed them? Enough. You really don't listen, do you? You're older but act like a child. Anyway, I'm giving our new house to my parents. If you resist, yeah, we'll get a divorce. What? Yes, I'm serious. I'm going to visit my parents' house today. You should stay alone and cool down your head. Reflect on your actions. And saying that, my husband went to his parents' house. I felt my love for my husband cool down in an instant. After all, he was a child born of that mother. Perhaps his self-centered nature was fundamentally the same. The next day, my husband returned home with a smug look on his face. Have you reflected yet? What am I supposed to reflect on? Are you sure of your words? Here are the divorce papers. I've already filled out my part. Didn't I tell you? I'm serious. If you're not repentant, we're getting a divorce. Think you can remarry at your age? Just stop being stubborn and listen to what I'm saying. Even my parents said they'd forgive you. I understand. Good girl. If you've learned your lesson, don't defy me again. I can't believe I didn't see my husband's true colors until now. Maybe he showed his true colors when I got a valuable new house. It seems like he's the type who becomes arrogant when he succeeds. I'm glad I found out before we started living together. I immediately filed the divorce papers and handed in at the city hall. We're no longer husband and wife, and I no longer have to let his family into my house. Luckily, to make me reflect, he had been staying at his parents' house for a few days, so I was able to move all my belongings to the new house first. The new house was just as I had imagined. Every corner of it was exciting. I bought new furniture and appliances and replaced them with the ones I had chosen, so I was filled with happiness just being in this space. Then, my ex-husband came to visit the house. When I looked at the video from the intercom, it seemed he had brought his parents and sister with him. Oh, I forgot to tell him that I had filed the divorce papers. When I answered the intercom, my ex-husband said irritably, "Open up quickly." "Sorry, I can't do that." "Huh? What are you messing around for? Let us in." "Damn, what do you mean moving in all by yourself without telling us?" "Sorry, I forgot to tell you." "I'll forgive you, just let us in now." "That's why it's impossible." "You..." "What I forgot to tell you was that I had filed for divorce." "What? What do you mean?" "That means I've submitted the divorce papers you gave me. We're no longer husband and wife. That's why I can't let you all in this house." "You can't be serious." "Hey, Robert, what's this about a divorce? Didn't you two agree to live together? And even if you were divorced, the house is marital property, right? Why is the wife occupying it?" "That's right. Our son should have a right to live here too." "Robert, didn't you explain it properly? This house is entirely in my name as I paid for it in full." Through the video intercom, it was clear that my former in-laws were at a loss for words. "Hey, Robert, you always said come to our house. What's going on?" That's... Anyway, that's the situation. Can you please leave now?" "Don't joke around. Why do we have to listen to you? If you continue to linger, I'll call the police." The police?" Upon hearing the words, police, Robert's family were completely taken aback. Then the father-in-law apologized to me, saying, "I'm sorry, Maria, we'll leave, so please don't call the police." And they left in their car. As for the ex-husband and his family, it seems they met a miserable end. The father-in-law, having learned about how I was being bullied by his wife and daughter, divorced his wife in disbelief and cut ties with both his son and daughter. Incidentally, since they mistakenly thought they could move into my new home, they had already put up their house for sale. So the mother-in-law and sister-in-law, abandoned by the father-in-law, had no choice but to depend on Robert, who now supports them while being blamed by the two for "it's your fault." I wish them well as they continue to shift blame on each other and lead a life of poverty. It serves them right. On the other hand, I'm living very comfortably in my new home and often invite my parents and friends over to have a good time. While I do want to experience love again, now that I have my own house, I intend to be more careful in choosing a partner so that I don't fall for the wrong person again.
"Give me this house or we're getting a divorce." I was suddenly cornered by my husband like that. This is a cherished home filled with memories of my parents. I have no intention of letting it go, of course. However, as if toying with such feelings, he threatens me. What should I do? I was at a loss and reached out to my dad for help. My name is Jessica, and I'm 30 years old. I'm a stay-at-home wife supporting the household day in, day out. My husband Bob and I have been married for almost 2 years now. He has been working tirelessly to support me since I quit my job to get married. But after the death of my father-in-law, my mother-in-law decided to move into our apartment, and our ordinary daily life collapsed in an instant. Surprisingly, I was informed about my mother-in-law's move the day before she was to live with us.
"Oh, by the way, Mom's coming over tomorrow."
My husband came home and just blurted out like it was nothing. Coming over to visit?
"Not just for a visit, she's moving into this house, so please clean up."
Moving in? Mother-in-law living in this house?
Dad's gone, so it's only natural, right? Otherwise, Mom will be alone back home.
Looking back, I felt something was a bit off about my husband's way of thinking at the time. Usually, a husband would discuss such a thing with his wife first, but in my case, it was decided before I even knew it. As my husband said, my mother-in-law arrived with a huge amount of baggage the following afternoon. "Hello, mother-in-law, it's been a while, please come in." I greeted her, but for some reason, she looked displeased. "Wait, Jessica, aren't you supposed to pick me up from the station?" Well, I didn't know what time you'd arrive." "You're supposed to call me and ask, aren't you? You're so thoughtless." I'm sorry. That's why I can't rely on you." Grumbling to herself, my mother-in-law plopped herself down on the sofa, as if she owned the place. The next day, her snide comments began. It starts right after my husband leaves for work. "Jessica, why are you so laid back doing the dishes? Laundry should be the top priority in the morning?" "I'm sorry, I'll do the laundry as soon as I'm done with this." "I'm telling you, you got the priority wrong. In this house, once you've had breakfast, the first thing to do is laundry." "Even if you say so." "Just keep quiet and do as I say. It's rude for a daughter-in-law to talk back to her mother-in-law. I wonder how you were brought up." I also have my own routine for the day, but why can't she understand that? It's not like I'm refusing to do anything. It seems that my mother-in-law simply doesn't like the way I do things. Even when I do as she says, she finds something to complain about, especially when it's just the two of us during the day. One day, I came up with a secret plan to end living with my mother-in-law. The plan was to move into a house that my father had given me. My parents decided to start living in the countryside when my father took early retirement a few months ago, so they gave me the house they had been living in. Fortunately, we don't live far from the apartment we're currently in, and there was already talk of moving to a house in the near future. To continue living with my mother-in-law, even for a tough old bird like me, was reaching a breaking point. If that was the case, I'd prefer to move out sooner rather than later, just the two of us, my husband and I. With this in mind, I decided to make a proposal to my husband right away. "Bob, do you have a moment? I'd like to discuss something."
A discussion? What's going on?
"You know that house my father gave us? How about we move there?"
"Oh, that house? We did talk about living there eventually, but why so sudden?"
"Well, I'm not getting along so well with your mother."
"What? My mom hasn't mentioned anything like that."
"Anyway, I find it too hard to keep living with your mother, so I'm seriously considering moving."
"I see. Well, it's not far away, and my mom can continue to live in this apartment."
Surprisingly, my husband readily accepted the idea of moving. He spoke with my mother-in-law about this, and within a week, we were ready to move. Honestly, I thought she would put up more of a fuss, but she readily agreed to let us move. Not only that, she saw us off with a huge smile on her face. "Bob, Jessica, see you around." "I'm sorry for moving out so suddenly." "It's fine, you've got your father's house, right? How wonderful."
"Thank you. Please feel free to come and visit us."
"Well, it's not far from here. Make sure to drop by regularly, Jessica." "Yes, I will." After some formalities, we headed to our new home. I was relieved deep down. I no longer have to put up with my mother-in-law's sarcasm. Now we can live freely again. I was ready for opposition, but I'm glad I had the guts to bring it up to Bob. However, that wasn't the end of it. While I felt a weight lift off my shoulders being away from my mother-in-law, my husband started coming home late. Not only was he late, but there were also days when he didn't come home at all. He wasn't working overtime or at a bar, he was visiting his mother.
"My mom needs me,"
my husband would say, but it was happening too often. He'd go eat over there without telling me, or he wouldn't come home for a whole day. Because of this, my daily routine was falling apart. Something had to give. One day, I confronted my husband. "Bob, don't you think you're not coming home too often?"
"Really? But I'm just staying at my mom's place."
"That's not the point. At least let me know. I end up wasting food."
"You can eat it the next day, Jessica. You're a stay-at-home wife, always at home."
"What? You think because I'm a stay-at-home wife, you don't need to contact me?"
"Well, it's the truth, isn't it? Being a stay-at-home wife means you're just lounging around at home, right?"
"What?"
"Besides, I'm more worried about leaving my mom alone. Ada will be back soon, and I need to talk to my mom about that."
"Ada is coming back?" Ada is my husband's younger sister, who is currently living abroad due to her work. I was surprised to hear about Ada's return, but what did he have to discuss with his mom? "Ada's coming home, huh? But do we really need to discuss this with mother-in-law?" Curious, I asked my husband.
"Of course we do. Ada will be moving in with us."
"What? Really?"
Apparently, Ada lives in a decently large house overseas, and she's whining about wanting a similar one here. That's why I think she will end up living in this house.
What? This sudden turn of events left me utterly blank. My sister-in-law moving into this house? We just got away from mother-in-law and now this? Hold on a second, Bob. This is the house that Dad left me. Why would Ada...
Well, remember our old apartment where we originally lived? Mother-in-law lives there now, and it's too small anyway. The only option for a larger house is this one.
Don't decide all that by yourself. I never planned to live with Ada.
Oh, we're not going to live together. We're giving the house to Ada.
What? What are you saying?
Listen, we're moving back in with mother-in-law. Ada can have this house and live here freely.
Bob's complete disregard for common sense almost made me lose my balance. Despite me repeatedly saying I didn't intend to live together, Bob finally snapped.
Will you knock it off already? We're able to live because of me, so just keep quiet and listen.
Stop joking, this is the house I inherited. Why would Ada...
This house is too good for you to live in, right? Ada has been living overseas for a while now, and I promised her a large house. I can't back out now.
I don't care, I'm not okay with this.
All you do is complain. Forget it. Cool off. I'm going back to mother-in-law's for a while.
With that, Bob slammed the door and left the house. Left alone in the room, tears welled up in my eyes. Why does he decide everything on his own? This is my cherished inherited house, and he's giving it to my sister-in-law? This isn't a joke. Every day, I received messages from Bob asking, "Have you reflected on this yet?" And, "You should come back here too, you know." Each time I had to reply, "I won't back down." Then one day, running out of patience with my stubbornness, Bob called me in a fit of rage.
"Jessica, when are you coming over here?"
"I've told you many times, I'm not going there and I have no intention of giving this house to Ada."
"Enough. I've already told Ada. She's coming back this week. Don't make a fuss."
"Don't decide things on your own. This is the house I inherited from Dad. It's mine now. Why should I give it up for your family?"
"Who do you think you're talking to? Mother-in-law is angry. Don't piss us off more."
"What about my feelings? Ignored." Bob sounded very frustrated, heaving a big sigh over the phone. Then he dropped a bombshell.
"If you can't listen to me, we're getting a divorce. Get out by tomorrow and leave the house to Ada."
That's when it happened. My love for him chilled instantly. The way he threatened me with divorce was downright disgusting, unforgivable. Ignoring my feelings and threatening me with divorce? Should I let him get away with this? Ignoring my seething rage, my husband arrogantly continued.
"Do you understand? If you don't leave by tomorrow, we're divorcing."
"Are you serious?"
"Of course I am. You don't have a choice. It'd be troublesome for you, a homemaker, if we divorced, wouldn't it? Ha ha."
"I see. I understand."
"Glad you do. Ha ha. So you better move over here quickly too. My mom's all excited to educate you. Ha ha."
And with that, my husband unilaterally ended the call. Afterwards, I explained the situation to my dad and decided to enlist his plan to execute a certain plan. The next day, my husband called sounding as cocky as ever.
"Hey, have you finished packing? Ha ha."
"Yes, of course," I responded calmly. "More importantly, when is Ada coming back?"
"Tomorrow."
"Why are you so obsessed with Ada?" At my question, my husband revealed his true colors.
"Actually, she's been making a killing in stocks and investments."
"I see, so you're trying to get on her good side to get some financial support. That's just like you."
"Think whatever you want. I need you to move out today."
"Don't worry, I've already moved."
"What?"
At my words, my husband seemed genuinely surprised. He probably thought I would obediently follow his orders. His tone became increasingly arrogant.
"Oh, I see. You didn't want to divorce after all. Ha ha. That makes sense. Without any income, you wouldn't be able to live if you divorced. Ha ha."
"That's right. We're still married for now, so I'm even answering your call, but that's going to end soon."
"What?"
"That's divorce." At my statement, my husband was clearly shaken.
You, what are you saying? You're going to move out of that house, right? You're coming over here now, right?"
"What? Why would I do that? I'd rather die than return to a house with an unreasonable husband and a meddlesome mother-in-law."
What do you mean? You promised to move out of the house."
"Yes, and that's exactly what I did, isn't it? I said I've already moved."
"Don't joke around. Then where are you?"
Starting to panic, my husband's speech began to quicken, a sign he was losing his cool. Timing it right, I decided to share the truth. "I'm at my parents' place now."
"What?"
"I moved back to the rural area where my parents live, so I won't be returning to your place."
"Oh, I see."
Relief seeped into my husband's voice.
"Well, that doesn't matter, as long as I can hand the house over to Ada."
$500,000.
"What?"
"The house that I got from my father, I put it up for sale. So if you really want to give it to Ada, you'll have to buy it for $500,000.
"What? You're kidding."
Do I sound like I'm joking? The house is still in my father's name, so I asked him to put it up for sale. In fact, what I had asked my father to do was help with the sale of the house. My father has always said to me, "You can live in it or sell it, whatever you fancy. Just let me know when the time comes." The evaluation came back to $500,000, and seizing the opportunity, I promptly put it on the market. He must have never imagined such a situation would arise. My husband stuttered his words, trying to unleash his verbal fury.
You gotta be kidding me. Doing things your own way. I won't allow this.
I don't need your permission. We're getting divorced soon anyway.
What did you just say? Do you understand your own position? You're the one who's going to be in trouble after the divorce without any income.
Struggling alone is way better than staying with you.
Listen, Ada will be back home soon. I told you I was depending on her money.
So what? Like I said, if you want to provide a place for Ada so much, why don't you just buy the house for $500,000? If you can, of course, haha.
What? I can't do such a thing.
Ada's making money from investments, right? She can buy it for $500,000.
No matter how rich Ada is, she can't go that far.
My husband only had excuses, showing no signs of apology, let alone humbling himself. Seeing that any further conversation would be a waste of time, I decided to give him a piece of my mind. I don't have the time to deal with you, foolish mother and son. Did you think threatening me with a divorce would make me obediently hand over the house? If you thought I'd do whatever you say because I'm a housewife, you're greatly mistaken.
Hey, calm down.
I am calm. The one who should be panicking now is you, isn't it? I'm not going to just go along with what you guys say. I absolutely refuse to continue being family with you guys any longer. Stay out of my life forever. Go to hell with your beloved mother, you jerk. I shout out loud enough for the neighbors to hear and hung up the phone. Of course, I immediately blocked his number, cutting off all means of communication with my husband. I then visited a lawyer I knew and requested a divorce mediation with my husband. It took some time, but I was able to divorce him due to his faults. He still seems to be living in the condo with his mother-in-law. About the return of my sister-in-law, they couldn't prepare a big house in the end, and she angrily flew back overseas yelling, "This is not what we agreed on!" The ex-husband's plan to ask for financial assistance from his sister-in-law, who had been making money from investments, ended up failing miserably. Nowadays, it seems they're just scraping by with the alimony to me and the living expenses for his mother-in-law. As long as he continues to live with his demanding mother-in-law, it seems unlikely his life will improve. On the other hand, I've been living peacefully in the countryside with my parents since moving. Just recently, thanks to a recommendation from a neighbor, I was able to get a job as an office worker at a small orchard. I now earn a decent income. For a while, I plan to live here. I'm going to stay as close as possible to my parents in order to repay their kindness.